focusing on today requires more of me to be there for me. I spent a lot of time in survival mode. I spent a lot of time thinking frugality was the solution. Welcome back to TC Vlogs. My name is Lillian Hernandez, aka Lily like the flower, because we're learning and growing together. And this is the Transaction Care YouTube channel. And in this vlog series, I've been discussing various topics surrounding my journey in business, particularly in real estate as a transaction coordinator, coach, as well as content creator. So this particular vlog is going to be about mainly my journey with debt and money and my mental health surrounding these topics. So let's just jump straight into it because things are happening. Okay, so as I was gathering my notes for this topic, a few things came to mind right out the gate. And if you see me looking over to the side, I'm looking at my screen because I want to make sure I stay focused on these topics and how they've been impacting my life in the past, today, and in the future. So if you can relate to any of these items, please comment below what it is that you can relate to, if you have any questions. But I want to hear from you all. I want to hear your experiences, maybe your wins or your struggles, and how we can best form maybe a community, a network of people that uplifts and encourages each other weekly, monthly, whatever the case may be. But I understand the heaviness that talking about money can bring. It can trigger people. It can discourage people. I've gotten to a place in my life where I enjoy talking about it, but I also still experience some shame and embarrassment when it comes to certain aspects, whether it be income, debt. So I want to talk about those things today, make them a little bit more normalized and not as much of a topic that we overlook or avoid. So with all of that said, if you've been watching my previous content, you know leading up to this, I did a whole audit to my life, something that I continuously revisit and adjust as I go. But for a good chunk of this summer, I really sat down and looked at every area of my life and what I'm doing well at, what I'm lacking in, who's in my life, who I need in my life, who I need to take out of my life, where I need to increase my income, where I need to invest more time, etc., etc., etc. So go watch those videos if you can. But what it came down to, long story short, are my priorities. So when it came to my money, my debt, my income, I had lost sight of my priorities. And I think for a long time, I found myself crawling back into that scarcity mindset versus in previous times in my life, I was very much in a state of abundance, having that abundance mindset. So entering new phases of my business or honestly losing that passion or that desire or even that focus to continue running certain aspects of my business, I didn't know what my priorities were. So I was just making money just to survive, which meant I was in survival mode. I was making just enough to survive. So if and when anything additional hit, or maybe I had friends or family in town, or maybe there was an event I wanted to attend, but I didn't quite budget for that, it would set me over. Or looking back a couple of years ago, I had to get an emergency dental procedure done. I enrolled in a life coaching course that set me back almost $10,000 as well. And 2023 being one of my worst years financially, I got into some consumer debt. So to backtrack a little bit, just to get to know my journey with money and all of that. So throughout my 20s, I had gotten my first real job. I was making decent money, but I had a very active social life. So I was out all the time. I had my dream car, which ended up being double than what I was supposed to pay for it. It was repossessed. I got into a bunch of debt. I didn't know how to manage my money. I settled a bunch of credit cards. And by 28, 29, around 27 to 29, I started to get my life together. And I said, I can't continue down this path, right? So it's interesting now that I'm talking about it out loud. And this is why I think it's important to talk these things out loud, whether it's publicly, in your journal, to God, to your therapist, to your partner, to your best friends, whoever. Because you may realize certain patterns, which I'm literally experiencing right now. But in my late 20s, I realized, you know what, I can't keep going like this. There has to be a better way. And that's when I learned about certain ways to manage my money and to get out of debt. And I just had to bite the bullet and do it. So I settled a bunch of credit cards. I allowed my car to be repossessed. I eventually got it out, but as a result, my credit had to take a huge hit. So I figured, well, I don't plan on buying a home anytime soon. I don't need to get another car. So I don't necessarily need my credit at this point in time. If enough years goes by and I just am serious about this whole process, then I'll be okay. So I did just that. I took the hits on my credit report, but I had no more debt. I paid off all of my debt. And at the time, honestly, I don't even remember the number. But for me at the time, it had to have been a lot for me to be stressing that much and to force me to get my life together. So now I'm in my 30s. It's all good. No debt. I'm working, still having fun, but I'm just spending the money where it needs to go, right? My car is paid off. We're good to go. I'm making sure I move my car when I'm supposed to so I don't get any additional parking tickets. And it's great, But then I realized, I don't have a savings. So let me start saving. And then, because I was experiencing, people in my family passing away, and it scared me. And I was like, okay, I need to get insurance. I need to start really making these grown-up adult decisions with my money. So instead of investing in what I would normally do, like partying or clothes or shoes, I was starting to invest my money in different ways. And it started with just a savings account. And eventually, making sure my future self was covered. So I got life insurance. I always had health insurance. And I was doing pretty well for myself. For someone in their early 30s, I was making anywhere between 60 and 70,000 per year. It just it would depend on closings, because some of that payment was coming from bonuses that I got each month for closings. But outside of that, as someone living in San Francisco, I was doing well. I was able to save. I was able to provide for my family. Everything was great. And then fast forward a few years, I ended up quitting my job and having to relearn money management, financial literacy, again, now from that lens. And I talk about how I've talked about in past videos and even in my live streams, which I do every Tuesday. So if you haven't seen one of my live streams, go ahead and watch some of the replays. They exist online. But ultimately, in my early 30s, I was saving a little bit and it was great. But I didn't fully prepare for self-employment. And going into being self-employed, one, I didn't know I was going to be self-employed. So there's that. But I knew if I was going to quit my job without a solid plan, I at least need to have 3 months in advance of savings. So I took that mentality in. I had a little bit of a cushion from when I quit my job, including my last few paychecks. So I thought I was good, I was good, actually. And even back then, I didn't party. I was sober for an entire year. So you know how much money I saved there. And it was great. until it wasn't. And we all know what happened in 2020. So that's when I feel like life for me started to really get real as a business owner, as someone that was self-employed. Because up until that point, the reason I had taken these new leaps in my life, my main why was my grandma. And then after she passed away, I didn't really process or grieve her loss, nor did I stop to really manage my money. Because at the time of 2020, a lot of my clients had decided to go different directions, so I wasn't making as much. Real estate was on a big pause, as was everyone else's job, so I was collecting unemployment checks. Again, back in survival mode, but I was still making enough to get through and not overextend myself, but I never stopped to really change my spending habits or be aware of my spending habits. At this point, I'm partying again, I'm going out, or I was just partying via Zoom because at the time we couldn't go out, you know what I mean? So, but I was still spending the money. So then fast forward to now, and around 2020, the end of 2022, going into 2023, I hired a coach, and I really started to challenge my norms. I really started to challenge where I was going in life. Because up until that point, again, I was just in survival mode. I never really changed or updated my why. I didn't know what my priorities were. I didn't know what my goals or my dreams were. I was just kind of existing, and I wasn't mindful of my spending. I wasn't mindful of my savings. I wasn't learning new ways or developing as someone in their mid-30s now to think about future me. And of course, 2020 to 2022, I think it did a number on all of us. And we were all in survival mode. So when 2023 hit, and I always tell people how that was one of my worst years financially, one, I have to give myself grace. I have to give myself grace in that aspect of I went through a lot, and I can only speak for myself. I don't want to pocket check anyone else. But for me, that was the first year I ultimately grieved my grandma. And then my other grandma had passed away a couple months prior to that. So I was really just emotionally just not present. And 2023 was also the first year I allowed myself to be in my feelings, to be in my thoughts, and to face those hurtful, sad times. And going through that really allowed me to move into my future. So I'm grateful for that, because now, having gone through 2023 and struggling and trying to figure out what career moves I wanted to make, that has led me to today. Fast forward to today, I had to overcome, and I'm actively overcoming, my scarcity mentality, because I think enduring so much of the pandemic, so much loss, I wasn't grieving, I wasn't processing, and I wasn't working on my own personal development. So bringing us back to today, and having gone back into debt, it really took a toll on my ego. It really took a toll on my self-esteem. It really took a toll on my mind and the way I navigate this world. And I'm realizing that I have been very insecure. So I'm relearning how to have an abundant mindset. I'm relearning to be more disciplined and focused on my priorities. I'm relearning how to make money, to invest in myself, to focus on my expenses and what's important. Focusing on today requires more of me to be there for me. I spent a lot of time in survival mode. I spent a lot of time thinking frugality was the solution. I spent a lot of time saying no to things that brought me joy, to events and people that brought me joy. And now, focusing on my priorities, I'm realizing there is a way to live my life the way I see fit, while I simultaneously make money, save money, pay my debt down, and just enjoy life. I think a lot of us get tangled in our own webs of stories and insecurities and scarcity mindsets. And I want to encourage you all to just sit down with yourself and face some of those truths, face some of those hard truths that temporarily, for the greater good of your future self. And if there's anyone else that can understand this or relate to this, please let me know in the comments. I want to, let's join forces because for the greater good, yes, it will require some sacrifice to, it's not so much about paying the debt, but it's building my lifestyle, my spending habits, my earning habits in a way that is in alignment with all of it, right? Because I think no matter what my choices are in life, unless I become like a super duper million quadrillionaire, right? I think debt to some capacity will always be a part of my life, because I think right now, this debt that I'm experiencing is preparing me for something bigger. I think God and the universe is testing me right now to say, hey, you keep asking for a new car, to buy a home, to furnish the home that you're in. But can you handle the debt that I'm presenting you right now, which is manageable? But if you're not facing the realities of it, or if you keep avoiding those things or ignoring the fact that it even exists, or you're getting too complacent with how you make money, can I even trust you again to buy a new car, to buy a home, to manage a home? You know what I mean? So I think right now my mindset is, one, getting back into an abundance mindset. That's key. Two, it's proving that I'm capable of not paying off the debt right away, because I think that's unrealistic, but creating a lifestyle for myself that is able to manage the pay down of this debt. And my focus on that is knowing my numbers. How much do I need to make on a monthly basis at the bare minimum and at the maximum? Obviously, maximum could be like, let's make $1 million a month, $1 trillion a month, but truly it's just a few $1,000s a month. And it's still in the 4 figures, you know what I mean? And knowing my bare minimum number, my survival number, right? My take care of everything number. And then breaking that down into knowing how much I need to make on a weekly basis. So I'm not just stressed because I know I have to hit this big number at the end of the month. No, it's like, just focus on each week. I need to make 100 this week, 2,000 next week, 800 the week after, whatever your numbers are. I just made those up. And then being disciplined in that. And then again, going back to your priorities, knowing your priorities is identifying what those numbers are and then working towards that. Whether you're at a 9-to-5, you're self-employed, because I was getting, again, caught up in my own webs and weaves of storytelling, telling myself, I can't, don't, you shouldn't, when in actuality, it's like, yes, I can, and how can I? It may not be today, but it will be tomorrow. So I'm learning to get back into that abundance mindset. I will touch back on this topic again, but I just wanted to come on here and talk to you guys, just kind of where I'm at today, where I was, where I am, and where I'm going, and how it relates to debt and my mental health and my business. Mentally and emotionally, it's been a roller coaster. I'm not going to lie. There's been times where I'm just like, how am I going to pay this month's bills? Like, how am I going to do this? And I think this experience is also bringing me closer to God and developing my faith and my trust in God, and as well as myself. My motto this year has been trust God, trust myself, and trust the process. And really, really believing that, because I'll tell you, the moment I just commit and keep the promises that I made to myself and to my business and to my family and friends, and but most importantly to God and myself, is when the blessings really start to rain in, you know. And I feel like I'm just touching the surface in this whole journey. So it's important for me to document this and talk to you guys, because I know there's someone out there that can understand this, you know what I mean? So that's where I've been, that's where I was, and this is where I'm going. So if you can relate, if you have some thoughts you want to chime in on and talk about, or maybe you're struggling and you just need to vent, comment, message me, share this with a friend that you think can benefit from this. But I just had to get that off my chest, because I know I'm not the only one, and if I could help someone throughout their journey feel more empowered and encouraged and uplifted, then I feel good, you know? So thank you for watching if you made it this far. I tried to keep these vlogs under 5 minutes, but somehow they end up being 20 minutes. And my battery on my camera kept dying, so I'm on my phone now, hence the scenery change, or maybe the quality change. But we're not going to stress out over that. It's progress over perfection, and it's all in the messaging. And to me, this is quality content, and I hope it resonates with at least one of you, or maybe 100 of you. And until the next one, I appreciate you. My name is Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lily, like the flower, because we are learning and growing together. And this is Transaction Care TC Vlogs weekly, Transaction Care Podcast weekly, live stream weekly, newsletter twice a week, social media content about 3 times a week. There's a lot happening. TC Patreon is now live. You can join it. It's $7 for the first 10 members, and then $10 after that. You get exclusive access to me, trainings, as well as just my insight, my expertise and guidance and resources that I feel can benefit you in this journey towards freedom, honestly. For those wanting to be a transaction coordinator, visit transactioncare.com to either work with me, join my private community, or watch my past content or listen to my past content. I appreciate each and every one of you. Till the next vlog, I'm out. I'm giving you the keys. There are no gatekeepers here. Care for yourself, care for your wealth. Your time is worth it. Let's coordinate. Talk soon.